Hello. There was a really sad story in the news recently. Bobby Christina, the only daughter of Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown, was found sometime earlier this year unconscious in a bathtub. And she never came up. She never woke up. It was just a few years after her mother was found dead in a bathtub, her mother Whitney Houston. This is really sad, and unfortunately, there is a way of understanding how families work that made this not so surprising. Tragic, but not so surprising. In the USA, one of the justifications the American President George Bush used for going to the war in Iraq was he said, "They tried to kill my father." That's not a direct quote, but that was the gist of the statement. They tried to kill my dad. Abraham Lincoln, a famous American president from the mid-1800s, who was president during the Civil War and is credited with abolishing slavery, was assassinated while he was in office. He was named after his father's father, Abraham Lincoln, who was killed by Indians when his son, Abraham Lincoln, the president's father, was very young. I use these historical events because they're ones everyone has reference to. But unfortunately, almost all of us have some version or another of these events that have happened in the past that have repercussions in our future. Hi, I'm Michelle Masters. I'm an NLP trainer and family constellation facilitator. And one of the biggest things that we run into are these unconscious blocks that are mostly invisible. Almost nobody sets out to ruin their life, to get sick, to get a disease, to ruin their business, to ruin their relationships, because they remember how hard it was for the generations previously. Nobody does that consciously, but unconsciously it is astonishing. Sometimes the exact replays we do of previous tragedies. It happens so often. There's a huge branch of work out there called family constellation work that addresses this specifically. Now, it's mostly invisible, and most people don't even know they're doing it. So what are unconscious family loyalties? Let me explain that for a moment. And then I'll tell you some more stories that'll help it really kind of hit home. As soon as someone is conceived into a family, they are bound, they are connected, they are part of that family system. They enter into that family's energetic field. The famous biologist Rupert Sheldrake, who came up with a theory of morphogenic fields and the 100th monkey, he wrote that book. He saw Bert Hellinger work. Bert Hellinger is the man who really formalized this form of working with these unconscious loyalties that we utilize. He saw Bert Hellinger work and he said, I invented the concept of morphogenic fields, but I never actually believed it until I saw your work. So once we're born into a family, we are connected to that family. It doesn't matter whether we like them or not. It doesn't even matter if we know them or not. And I'll tell you a story later that kind of makes that really clear. But once we're born into them or conceived in, we are bound to that family. Now, every human being, as soon as they are conceived into a family, they feel the pain in the family, always. And their first instinctive move is to want to heal that pain. We always want the people that we come from to be happy. We always want them to be well. So there's kind of three ways that human beings try to pull this off. First off, they will try to love the pain in submission. I will love you so much. This will all be okay. Never works, ever. If it worked, every single parent would be instantly healed upon the birth of their first child, but never works. Their next move is to try and take the pain from the family. I will have this so you don't have to. I will suffer so you can be okay. Take me instead. Also, never works. Now you have two people with the pain. Or third, they try to not have it too much better. So first off, they can feel like they belong, because when we suffer like the people we come from, we feel like we belong. When we have it better, we feel guilty. Or they try to limit so they don't have it too much better. Okay, I will be a little bit more happy. I will be a little bit more successful. But almost all of us feel that unconscious tug if we start to have it better than the people we come from. For example, I was working with a client who just kept hitting a wall with his business. He just couldn't make it work. And when we did a little work to find out what was behind all that, his great-grandfather came from the old country where it was really, really poor. And so even when he was a young teenager, his family, there was 11 of them and they had almost nothing, sent him out to watch the flocks, the sheep, to keep the wolves away. You have a teenage boy out there sleeping on his own with rocks and a stick trying to keep the wolves away from the flock. So some part of him, without even realizing it, was limiting his success out of loyalty to his great-grandfather. That's not that uncommon. I had a woman come in because she was having trouble at work. She said, it's like a battlefield in there, and she kept using all this battle terminology. Things blow up, and she kept going on and on. When we found out what was behind all that, her grandfather had served in the Second World War in the Pacific. He was on an island somewhere when shelling started. And there were craters all around, so he dove into a crater, and everybody else jumped in on top of him. Well, the crater took a direct hit. A bomb hit that crater dead on. Everybody in it died except for my client's grandfather, because he was on the bottom. All the other bodies absorbed the impact. But he was trapped by the weight of those bodies for 3 days until the burial parties came. So some part of him never recovered from that. But when there is huge pain and trauma, it's more than we can process. And so it goes into the unconscious. And so my client was feeling that without realizing it. So I could give you so many examples of this. A man who came to me with a gambling problem, he said, it's like I'm trying to lose my house. And so I wondered, well, who did lose their house? His family moved here from Mexico to the Los Angeles area in the 1930s. In 1941, their neighbors, a Japanese family, were sent into the internment camps and lost their property, and his family got their house. So they got a house that they shouldn't have had, and so he, like 2 generations later, is trying to lose his house to balance the scales. There are so many blocks that actually have their roots in history. It doesn't matter whether we love our family, whether we feel close. Those things affect us because the desire to belong transcends whether or not we're close. Quite often it's the people we are the most distant from. The more we push away consciously, the more we hang on unconsciously. So these blocks are almost there, and many coaches either don't even know they're there, or healers, or if they do, they don't know how to work with them. I do a family constellation training every summer in the U.S. It's 9 days, but not everybody can afford to leave Australia for your winter and come out here to take that class. Most coaches don't have the time to do full-on constellations. And so last year, some of the folks from Australia asked me if I would put together a 3-day workshop on how to work with that family system stuff for coaches, especially in a one-on-one format, because not everybody has either the time, the skill depth, or the resources, have a bunch of people around to do a family constellation. So we created a workshop called Family Systems for Coaches. This work is so important. The constellation, those unconscious loyalties are so big. Actually, we do some of it in all our workshops. The Clear Path to Love workshop is all about these unconscious blocks. Money Magic, we do a piece of it because so many of the blocks to money have their roots in unconscious family loyalties. And then Family Systems for Coaches, this is just about how to work with those unconscious loyalties because they're always there. So this class is designed to let you begin to notice what those loyalties are and begin to work with them. I had a client come to me once. She was referred by a doctor. The minute she walked in, I wanted to say, what the hell happened to your mother? But that would have freaked us both out. She came because she had chronic neck pain since she was, as long as she could remember, terrible, terrible neck pain. When it was finally okay for me to ask about history, I asked about her mother because it had that vibe. And she said, do you mean my biological mother? I said, oh, you're adopted? She said, yes. This is a big deal. When someone's adopted, because they're not part of the family, they hang on even tighter. So I said, do you know anything about your mother? She said, well, I just found out a few years ago. She's 38. She's had this pain her whole life. But she said, I found out about 2 years ago, I found out about her. She was murdered. I said, oh, murdered how? She said, blunt trauma to the head and her throat was cut. So head, neck trauma. So the reason she got sent to me was she was in such pain, she swore she'd never do surgery. She finally relented because it was so bad. She went to a surgeon. They said, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. There's no surgical cause. So that's when she got sent to me, because there was no surgical cause. This was an unconscious loyalty. The pain was real. Let me be clear, the pain was real, but it was not a physiological cause. So there, just in my office, working one-on-one, we did some work to reconnect her with her mother, which is what she was trying to do. Since she couldn't have her mother in life, she was trying to connect to her mother through this pain and trauma. When we did that, at the end of the session, she went, "Oh my God, that's so weird," because the pain was gone. It had never been a physical cause. It was a real pain. It had never been a physical cause. I saw her a few years later. I was in a shopping store, Target, and somebody came around the corner with a shopping cart and shrieked and ran at me saying, "That's her, that's her, that's the woman who changed my life." It wasn't me that changed her life, it was the reconnection with her mother. That's what did it, because that's what she had wanted. These are so primal, so important. So that's why we created Family Systems for Coaches, because the people who can work with this kind of stuff seem to be magicians. There was a very funny kind of commercial a few years back when the U.S. women's soccer team had just won the World Cup, and they were famous for being bonded as a team. And one of them was in the dentist's office, and the dentist comes out to the others who are in the waiting room and says, "Brandy's going to be fine. She just needs a couple fillings." And then one of the other people jumps up and said, "Then I will have 2 fillings." He says, "But your teeth are fine." And another jumps up, "I will have 2 fillings. I will have 2 fillings." It was this funny expression of teammate and loyalty. And it was funny in the commercial, but sadly, this is exactly how most of us live our lives. "I will have 2 fillings." Basically, we ruin our teeth on behalf of people we love. To be loyal, to be loving, it's unconscious love. The drive is love. It's so sweet and so futile. So please join us, because being able to work with this kind of stuff makes you so much more valuable for your clients. Gives you such a richer experience of your own life, and you get to see some of your stuff there in the workshop. But honestly, once these things start to resolve, once they start to revise, then it gets freer and lighter for everyone. Nobody's life is better by suffering unnecessarily for someone in the past. When you join someone in their suffering, you just make more suffering. So please join us and learn how to do this magical work. We'd love to have you at any of our workshops: Family Systems for Coaches, Clear Path to Love, Money Magic, Metaphors for Change. We'd love to see you there. Thank you.